Hello, fellow book readers. My name is John, and today I would like to talk about the books I read in April. April was a big Wheel of Time month for me. I read 9 Wheel of Time books. Books 4, which is The Shadow Rising, through book 11, which is A Knife of Dreams. I also read the prequel, A New Spring. So altogether, it equals 9 books, and yeah, I had a great time reading it. I really thought I was going to be able to finish Wheel of Time in April, but I wasn't able to do that. I was able to finish all of the Robert Jordan Wheel of Time books, though, which is exciting. So let's get started with The Shadow Rising, which is the 4th book in the Wheel of Time series. And this book really sort of dials up the tension in the series to another level. Like, this is really where the series starts becoming the Wheel of Time, in my opinion. Like, it's kind of crazy how big this book is, but not really as much plot happens as you would think. It's really the character work in this book that is superb. Not that there isn't any plot, there's a ton of plot, but it's really the character work in this book that drives it, and the character work in here is so good. Um, it's not a perfect book for me. It's just a near perfect book because there is one scene I'll talk about a little later that just didn't work for me. And it's actually a big scene that works for a lot of people. It's some people's favorite part of the series, I would imagine. For me, it just didn't work. I'll talk about that in a bit. Let's talk about the parts I did like. Matt going into the Terangrial. I don't know how to say that word. But when Matt goes into the Terangrial and he meets like those snake people and the other people, I think they're called the Elfin and the Alphin. And he gets and they act like very differently. Like the one group is like kind of nice to him, and the other group is like mean and like hangs him. But they answer like 3 questions. It was like a great way to do foreshadowing for what happens later in the series. He didn't do much in the book other than that, but what he did do was, I think, very good. Those scenes were very good. And Matt is sort of growing into a different character since The Dragon Reborn. Like in that book, he was a different Matt, and in this book, he continues that. He's a character that's more easy to root for, in my opinion, which is great. Egwene is just becoming more and more Aes Sedai, which is awesome because she embraced how she wanted to be an Aes Sedai like right away in Eye of the World, and you can see it in this book how she's just becoming more and more Aes Sedai. I love how she's learning the Dream Walk in this book. Uh, it's just really good stuff. I think Elaine was awesome in this book. She might have even been the MVP of the book for me. Her scenes with Rand, I think they just have really good chemistry. I think that really worked. And then her and Nynaeve going to Tanchiko, I think was a really good arc for them. I pretty much love anything that has the Black Eyes in it, because I just think they're like really good villains. So that worked for me really well. And I thought Elaine and Tom had like a really special moment in this book. Um, where like he realizes that Tom was around when she was a child, and she sort of talks about it. She's like, I think she's kind of drunk in that scene if I'm remembering correctly, but it's a really heartfelt scene, great scene. So yeah, I really love Elaine in this book. Nynaeve too, but not as much. I mean, she's not just in it as much as Elaine is, even though they're in the same arc. Uh, the White Tower plot was was great in this book. I did not like. I knew Sawan would probably get something would happen to Sawan eventually in the series. I didn't think it would happen this early. So yeah, her getting stilled with Leanne was crazy. I was in shock when that happened, and then like those two managing to escape with the help of Gawain and Min was really good plot. Really enjoyed that, and I think it just worked really well. And then we got to actually explore Swan as a character a bit more in this book, which was cool because I think she is a pretty fascinating character. But really, the MVP of this book were Perrin and Thale. Their Two River arc in this book was just amazing. How they defended the Two Rivers, how he like brought Perrin up to like Lord status almost. Their interactions with the White Cloaks. You have Luke in this book, who I think is the Flyer. Well, actually, I know now he's the Flyer, but even here, I was like pretty sure he was the Flyer. And I thought that reveal where like he gets shot in the dream world, and then he's like out, he's like running away. That was really good. But that entire Two Rivers arc was really good. Almost not almost every chapter, and that was perfect. Really, really love that arc. It's one of my favorite arcs of the series so far. Um, but the only thing that stopped this book from getting 5 stars for me is the Rand Aiel flashback scene, which is, don't get me wrong, it's super important to the story, super, super, super important to the overall story of the Wheel of Time. And the fact that the Aiel were the way of the leaf beforehand is just, it's so interesting for their society, and the ramifications of it are throughout the series. It's really good stuff. I just thought it was a little too long. It's like over 50 pages, I think, or something like that. And it's one continuous chapter. I think I would have liked it more if you broke it up into like other chapters. Like, we'll do this part of the flashback, and then we'll go to like a parent point of view chapter, and then we'll come back and do this part. No, we did like it all in one chapter, I think, or at least all in like one continuous Rand point of view. And to me, it just bounced off me. It didn't work. I felt myself having to like reread different passages. Like, what did I just read? And I didn't think it worked for me. Like, it just didn't. The overall plot of it worked, but not the writing of it. Like, it just didn't. Kind of bounced off me. That being said, like I said, the rest of the book was perfect. I've heard this book compared to Empire Strikes Back, and I would kind of agree with that in terms of like the quality of it. Objectively, it might be the best book in the series. It's not my favorite though, and because of the Rand chapters, I can't give it 5 stars. For me, it's a 4.5 star book. Still great, near perfect. Okay, next up is Fires of Heaven, which I loved. To me, this is a perfect book. This is the perfect book. It just is. I enjoyed basically every arc in this one. I thought this book had 3 different climaxes, and they all delivered. You had the Rand and Matt, and the Aiel versus the Shadow Aiel outside of Karen. I thought that battle was awesome, and it was so easy to follow too. Like, a lot of times I read battles and I can't like picture them in my head, but this battle I could picture in my head every line. It was like expertly written and described. Uh, Perfect. And then you had Rand and Moraine versus Lanfear, and that had been building for the past 3 books, and it was so good. It was pulled off perfectly, and I loved how Maureen like basically sacrificed herself to take out Lanfear, uh, and that had to happen because Maureen was like the mentor figure, right? And you have to lose the mentor at some point, and I thought this was a perfect way to basically get rid of her. Uh, yeah, it was perfect, and it was a little obvious that it was going to happen, but it didn't affect anything. Like, the one thing is Robert Jordan as a foreshadower, he makes his foreshadowing like very obvious, and I actually quite like that. So yeah, I love that, and I loved the letter that Moraine left for Rand. It was so good. That letter brought some tears. Like, it was a really good part of the book. And then also just the Rand characterization in this book was really good. Um, he's like starting his descent into madness, and well, Lily started it like last book really, but this book it's more obvious where he's like Lewis Aaron is constantly in his head, and it's done really well, but it's not done in a way that's annoying. Like, it's done in like kind of a charming sort of way, which it works. The way he writes it makes it work really well. I also thought the Elaine Nynaeve Moghedian plotline, she's one of the Forsaken, I don't know if I'm saying that name right, was really good in this book. You got more Brigitte, and that was like what happens to her is shocking and just really good stuff. And then finally, the last climax. I said there was 3. Was Rand versus Raven, but Nynaeve is also there with Moghedian. I thought that was really good and really creepy too, because like the setting that takes place in, it's very very creepy. At least the way I saw it in my head. Yeah, really love this book. I think it's a perfect book. 5 stars. It's a little quicker to read than the 2 books it's sandwiched between, and I thought every plot line in this book worked, and I encourage everybody to give it a shot. I would say it's my favorite book of the month, but it's not. It's up there. It's second though. Next up is Lord of Chaos, which is the biggest book in the series. I think it's about 10,000 words longer than The Shadow Rising. Really, really thick book. This book is great, but it definitely could have been shorter in my opinion. To me, it's not a perfect book. I know this is some people's favorite. It's not my favorite. I still think it's great though. Still a great book. Not good, great. Uh, this is really the book where the politics of the series get dialed up to like 11. To me, this book is very A Song of Ice and Fire coded. That doesn't mean it took anything from A Song of Ice and Fire because this book came out before Game of Thrones was even published. uh, it's just the politics remind me of it a lot. And I'm a big Song of Ice and Fire fan, so I love that type of politics. And in this book, it delivers. Like almost everybody's politicking in this book. You got the White Tower, you got the rebel Aes Sedai, you got Camelin, Karen, the Forsaken. Everybody's plotting and scheming in this book, and it's the IL. Everybody's plotting and scheming in this book, and it works so well. And the characterization again just stays winning in this book. It also has one of the best climaxes of the series, where Rand gets kidnapped by the Eladia's White Tower, Aes Sedai, and you have a faction of the Shadow, which are the IL that didn't take Rand as the Dragon Reborn. So they kidnap Rand, and they end up and they're trying to bring him back to the White Tower. But really, Savannah, who is the leader of the Shadow IL, is going to actually also try to take him from the Aes Sedai and bring him with him and marry him. So it's very, very self-destruction. But thankfully, you get a giant battle where Rand brings in the Ashamen, which are these male channelers that he started in a couple books prior that I didn't mention, and they battle with them. And he also got the Two Rivers folk and some of the rebel Aes Sedai on his side. It's a really and some I think there's some Carrion people there too. Really good stuff. Really, really good stuff. Really good battle, and it's one of the more it is the most brutal battle, at least so far in the series. The way it's described is actually a little gross, I think. But yeah, it's a brutal battle at the end of the book. Great climax. It's not my favorite climax in the series. That would still be the Great Hunt. The Great Hunt's climax from when Egwene gets collared to the end is better than this, but this is easily in the top 3, probably top 3. I think I have it third right now. Yeah, great climax, and I also really love the plot where Egwene finally gets raised to the Amyrlinian seat by the rebel Aes Sedai. You could tell it was coming because it was foreshadowed in earlier books. Really good stuff. Yeah. And the rebel Aes Sedai plotline is super awesome. I love that too in this book. Some of the things I didn't like is the pale, fair, and jealousy stuff in this book. To me, that was just very flat. Didn't like it. Didn't like reading it. Didn't take up a ton of the book, but took up enough of it where I was like, oh god. But that's still a great book. Not perfect though. I'm gonna give it 4 stars. Okay, next up is where some people say the slog starts, which is book 7. I don't think so. I disagree. It's Crown of Swords. Is this book great? I don't think it's a great book. I think it's a very good book, though. It's a very good book. It's not really sloggy or slow at all. It's actually a little shorter than the previous 3 books. And yeah, there's a lot that happens here. This book builds up. So there's been this Forsaken named Samael who they've been building towards him fighting Rand for I think like 3 books now, and it just hasn't happened. Like I thought it was going to happen in Lord of Chaos, and it didn't. It finally happens in this book, and the payoff was worth it. Like it was a good scene, good climax. I enjoyed it, and the ramifications of the climax were very interesting. So yeah, and you had the Ball of the Winds plotline in this book, which I thought was really interesting. You got a little bit more Eladia in this book, and she's like a pretty perfect antagonist, I think. She's the leader of the White Tower. She's the Amyrlinian seat there. Awful person, but pretty good antagonist. And Robert Jordan does a good thing where he doesn't overshow her. Like she's in each book a little bit, so you don't get too much of her to be like, okay, this is one note. Again, there were some problems with the parent failed jealousy stuff, which continued in this book, which why. And Savannah, who I talked about in Lord of Chaos, she's the leader of the Dido IL, which are the IL that don't believe in Rand. She's in this book a lot, and I think she's a wet blanket of a character. It's not that I hate her; I hate reading about her. She's just not fun at all and kind of boring. So she's in this book a bit. That's the only thing that really keeps the book from being great, but it's still very good. 3.5 stars. Okay, next up is Path of Daggers. And this is where, if you don't think the flog begins in book 7, this is where everybody says the flog begins. And I heavily disagree. This is a great book. Love this book. I thought this book did something interesting because the last, like, 5 books have all just been building, or last 6 books? Yeah, last 6 books have all been building, have all like ended with a Forsaken versus like Rand battle, right? Like that's the thing. They all build to Forsaken versus Rand. This book doesn't. This book brings back the Sean Chan from The Great Hunt, who are, I think, superb antagonists. I hate them. They're awful people, awful culture. Things they believe are morally decrepit. Like they're just not good people. And they bring them back, and Rand fights them in this book. And I thought it was a good break from the formulaic Forsaken Rand battles. So yeah, I really appreciated that about this book. They're back in full force, and it sets them up for later too, and really good stuff there. It also has other good stuff. The Perrin rebounded in a major way in this book, and Bale getting kidnapped at the end was like a really good cliffhanger to set them up for even better stuff next book. And then I thought Egwene wrestled control away from the rebel Aes Sedai Hall. She outsmarted them when they were all just like, we were just a puppet, a puppet Emerilian. I thought that was a really good plot line. It was my favorite plot line of the book, actually. I thought it was awesome. And then you also had the Morgase plotline, which I can see how people would not love because she's not really like a major character. I thought that was actually a really good plotline, and I really enjoyed reading about it. So yeah, for me, it's a 4-star book. Great book. Okay, next up is Winter's Heart. I don't know why I keep saying a Winter's Heart. Just Winter's Heart. Which is the 9th book in the series, and I can see how people would think this is part of the slog. I still think it's a good book, though. I wouldn't say it's a very good book. It's just a good book. I would say there's 5 arcs in this book. You got Elaine's arc, Rand's arc, Matt's arc, Perrin's arc, and Fail's arc. And I think only 2 of them really get climaxes, but the 2 climaxes you do get are pretty good. But the 3 that don't get climaxes, they don't even leave really on cliffhangers or like on a big moment. They just kind of stop in the middle of nowhere. It's like, okay, we'll pick them back up next book, but where's the moment? It just doesn't happen. So there's a bit of a problem with that, but I do think this book has some really good character work in it again, and I do think the 2 climaxes we get are pretty solid, especially the cleansing of the source by Rand. I think that climax was really good. It's actually my second favorite climax of the series, behind the Great Hunt. Really good stuff there. It reminded me a lot of like Avengers Endgame, where like people are jumping out of portals and just really good stuff. Powerful scene too. This book didn't have any Egwene point of view chapters, and Egwene is my favorite character, so suffered a little bit for me there. But I still thought it was a good book. 3 stars. If you know, had a little bit more plot progress, it would have been higher, because I think the stuff that did happen was actually really good. And then next up was Crossroads of Twilight. Is the which in my opinion, again, this defines the flog right here. If you want to talk about the flog, would be this book. Really the only book that I really felt foggy about. Nothing really happens in this book, if I'm being honest. There's really no plot. It's just a character book, and the character stuff is awesome, and I'm a bit of a character reader, so I'm not going to shit on this book too much, because I thought the character work in here was superb. And I really did like the way he wrote the first half of the book, where the first half of the book happens during the climax of the Winter's Heart, where Rand is cleansing the source, and everybody that can channel power can feel like something massive happening. They don't know what's happening, but they're all speculating on it. in like every point of view chapter, and it's awesome. I love that. I love that about this book. That was great. I loved that we got to. Okay, so Matt in Winter's Heart, Matt saves a bunch of Damane, which are like the Sanchan woman channeler slaves who they like bleach. So Matt saved a bunch of them in Winter's Heart. And I didn't bring that up. I forgot to. Like that arc was really good climax in that too. So you get like him and Tuan, who is like the princess of Sanchan in this book because he kidnapped her because she's going to be his wife, which was really funny. He had like a really funny line about that in Winter's Heart near the end, and they have like really good chemistry in this book. So yeah, that I like their interactions in this book, even if I think the Sanchan are despicable. I like their interactions. I don't know where, and yeah, I thought that plot line really worked. And then the cliffhanger at the end of this, where a queen gets captured, was really good. So yeah, but otherwise not much happens. So 2.5 stars, just a fine book. Okay, and then next up, I read New Spring, which is the prequel to the series. I read it here because that's the publishing order. When it was initially published, it came out after Crossroads of Twilight. Um, yeah, and I thought actually it's a really good place to read it. I haven't finished the series yet, so I can't say for sure if it's the best place, but I do think it's a pretty good place to read it because it's a bit of fresh air. It's a bit shorter, like it's a shorter book than the rest of the series by far, and it has more of a young adult feel to it because the two of the three characters it focuses on are, uh, like young, and it sort of gives a more young adult feel to it. So this book looks at Moraine, who was a character in the earlier books, one of the Aes Sedai, the main Aes Sedai in the earlier books, and Sawan, and also Lan, who later becomes Moraine's water. Um, yeah, and it's a really good character introspection with them, and you get to see how the White Tower was working back then and how it still works. You don't really in the White Tower that much in the regular series, at least up to this point. So that was cool, and you get to learn the backstory on some of the other Aes Sedai that we get to meet in the series, like Sheriam and Leilani and a few others. Eladia, especially, she's still not a good person in this book. Um, yeah, and there's a lot of cool stuff in here. Like you get to see the Aes Sedai final test to become one, and the central plot is like about the Black Aja and the first foretelling of the dragon being reborn. So yeah, it's about that, and Moraine's going out on a quest to find it after, and she's also, you get a little backstory on her in it too, about how she doesn't want to be queen of Karen. And then her and Lan's uh interactions in this book are pretty funny. Like I really enjoyed them together in this book. Especially when there's a scene where he's like, when Lan first meets her, he like dumps her into a pond, and Moraine's pissed. So she's like every night she's like doing different stuff to him, like putting ants, like summoning ants to go in his clothes, or uh, other stuff like that. And there's this one where she's like, "Are you allergic to wasps?" And he's like, "No." He's like, and then in her head, she's like, "I'm gonna sick wasps on him tonight." It was so funny. Yeah, so I really enjoyed their interactions. They were quite charming. Um, but there are a few point of view chapters where you're in Lan's head, and Lan is like very depressed. I don't think he's a very good point of view character. I love Lan as a character, but I don't think he's a good point of view character. So those chapters suffer. Luckily, there's not too many of those in this book, like 4 or 5 maybe. Yeah. So there's that. It's a good book. It's not any more than a good book. It is a breath of fresh air, though. Good break while still being in the wheel time world. 3 stars. I also don't have the physical book of that one, if you couldn't tell. I read that one on my Kindle. And then finally, A Knife of Dreams, and this is my favorite book of the month so far. It's the 11th book in the Wheel of Time series. It is the last book written by Robert Jordan. For me, every chapter in this book delivers. Like literally every single chapter. The character work is superb. The plot developments, it closed all the plots off that were left hanging in books 9 and 10. And there were a lot of them. I thought the interactions between some of the characters were great. It also set up the last 3 books in a real way. There were a few twists in this book that were awesome. Like Rand lost his hand, And I didn't see that coming. And like I said, Robert Jordan is a very heavy foreshadower. Like, and he makes it fairly obvious. I don't know how I missed that one, but I must have missed it. So I was pretty shocked by that one. Really good stuff. This book doesn't have a lot of Rand in it, but it didn't need it. Like, to me, Egwene was the MVP of this book. The chapter's called Honey in the Tea. That's might be my favorite chapter in the series. It was really powerful stuff. Um, yeah, and also the pair and fail, like, they conclude the Shadow arc in this one, and the conclusion of that is really good. And you also get more 2-1 and Matt, and 2-1 is so despicable. Like, the way she thinks about channelers or it's just awful. But she has such good chemistry with Matt, and it's a very interesting character because she's not like inherently bad or anything, but she's very Son Chen like, and it's just like, oh god. But they, the conclusion to that arc, it's not the conclusion to the arc, but like the sub arc, I guess I would call it. The way that moves in this book is really good, and there's a couple of, like, really great scenes in here where Matt, like, fights outside of this bar. Awesome stuff. And then at the end, she ends up the death watch guards come, and they end up Matt, like, gives her back to them. She's like, you gotta take her there safely because the rest of the Son Chan are actually now trying to kill her because of the Forsaken, pretty much. Yeah. So yeah, that was really interesting, good stuff, and I'm really intrigued to see where they go. I am quite scared because Rand wants to make a deal, yeah, with the Sean Chan, and I just think they're pretty terrible people. But like I said, 2-1's a very interesting character. Like, I don't know what to think about her. Like, I think some of her beliefs are, like, her favorite two hobbies are training horses and training Damani. Get out of here, leave. But yeah, she's a interesting character who I think is interesting to read because she's not one note. Yeah. So to me, this is the best book of the month. 5 stars, perfect book. This and Fires of Heaven are both perfect, but I think I like this one. Or at least right now. I just finished reading it yesterday. It could change. Right now, I think I would rank this one just, if I was to order my 5-star books, I'd put this one a little bit higher than it. So this is my book of the month right now, Knife of Dreams. Good stuff. And with that, I finished all of Robert Jordan's Wheel Time books. There's 3 more books left in the series, but they were mostly written by Brandon Sanderson, and I look forward to seeing what he will do with the series. I'm a big Brandon Sanderson fan. I've read 9 of his books, and I've given 4 of them 4 stars, 4 of them 5 stars, and 1 of them 3.5 stars. So I've liked every book I've read by Brandon Sanderson, but I am a bit nervous about what he's going to do with Wheel Time because he's not. He's very different prose from Robert Jordan, first off, and second off, I do think the way he writes endings are more bittersweet than any books that have been in this series so far. Like Robert Jordan, which is kind of weird to say, Robert Jordan kind of writes happier endings to his books than Brandon Sanderson does. But we'll see. I'm intrigued by what is to happen, but also a little nervous at the same time. Anyway, that was my April reads. Thank you for watching. Oh, and leave a comment. Let me know what you read.